What if the person you have spent your entire life trying to understand does not actually exist? What if there is no single unified you hiding somewhere inside your mind? What if the anxiety, confusion, self-doubt, inner conflict and emotional chaos you experience are not signs that something is wrong with you, but signs that there are many different versions of you living within you? If you've ever wanted something and feared it at the same time, if you've ever felt confident one day and completely insecure the next, if you've ever asked yourself, "Why am I like this?" then this video is about you. Because perhaps the greatest misunderstanding we have about ourselves is believing we are one person. By the end of this video, you'll understand why childhood love may shape the structure of your entire inner world. You'll understand why some people remain resilient through life's storms, while others feel shattered by them. And you'll discover a powerful possibility. Maybe you were never broken. Maybe you were simply never fully put together. Imagine holding a mirror in your hands. Now imagine dropping it onto the floor. The mirror shatters into dozens of pieces. Each fragment still reflects something. Each fragment still contains truth. But none of the pieces alone can show the whole picture. Now imagine that every human being enters the world like that mirror. Not broken, not damaged, simply incomplete. A collection of emotions, sensations, instincts, needs, fears, desires, and experiences that have not yet been organized into a coherent self. We often imagine babies as tiny adults, but they are not. A newborn has no idea who they are, no concept of self, no story, no identity, no language, only experiences, warmth, hunger, comfort, fear, connection, separation, pleasure, pain. The infant experiences life as a series of emotional storms, and in those first years something remarkable begins to happen. Someone else helps them make sense of those storms, usually a parent, usually a caregiver, usually a mother. The child does not yet know how to regulate emotions, so another nervous system does it for them. The child cries. The caregiver picks them up. The child feels terror. The caregiver provides calm. The child feels overwhelmed. The caregiver provides safety. The child feels chaos. The caregiver provides order. Over thousands and thousands of interactions, the infant begins learning something profound, not through words, not through lessons, not through logic, through feeling. The child learns, my feelings can be survived, my needs matter, the world is safe enough, I am worthy of care, I am lovable. These emotional experiences become the first building blocks of the self, the first glue. And perhaps that is one of the deepest truths about human psychology. We are not held together by intelligence. We are not held together by success. We are not held together by achievement. We are held together by relationships. The quality of love we receive helps determine the quality of glue that binds our inner world together. And when that glue is strong, something beautiful happens. The child develops what psychologists often call ego strength. Not ego in the arrogant sense, but ego in the sense of coherence, an inner sense that all the different parts of oneself belong together. The ability to remain emotionally whole even when life becomes difficult. But what happens when the glue is weak? What happens when love is inconsistent? When comfort is unpredictable? When acceptance feels conditional? When attention must be earned? When emotions are ignored, criticized, mocked or feared? The mirror still forms, but the pieces never fully connect. And decades later, those fractures continue speaking, not as memories, but as patterns. You see them in relationships, you see them at work, you see them in parenting, you see them in anxiety, you see them in loneliness, you see them in every place where human beings struggle to feel whole. There is an old philosophical idea from David Hume. Hume suggested that there is no fixed self, only a bundle of perceptions. At first, this sounds strange. Most of us assume there is a permanent me somewhere inside. But if you look carefully, maybe Hume was pointing toward something profound. Are you the same person you were at 5, at 15, at 25, at 45? Or are you a collection of different selves constantly interacting? Think about it. There is the part of you that wants love, and the part that fears love, the part that wants success, and the part that fears failure, the part that wants adventure, and the part that wants safety, the part that wants forgiveness, and the part that still wants revenge, the confident self, the insecure self, the playful self, the serious self, the wounded self, the hopeful self. Which one is the real you? Maybe all of them. Maybe none of them. Maybe the self is not a thing. Maybe the self is a relationship between many different parts. And psychological health is not the elimination of those parts, it is their integration. The strength of the glue matters more than the number of pieces. Consider a simple everyday example. Imagine a woman named Sarah. Sarah is successful. She has a good job. She owns a home. People describe her as strong, confident, independent. Yet every time someone gets emotionally close to her, she becomes anxious. She starts pulling away. She becomes suspicious. She finds reasons to leave. She tells herself she just values independence. But underneath that story is another part of her. A younger part. A forgotten part. A child who learned long ago that closeness could lead to disappointment. That piece of the mirror never fully healed. Now imagine another man named Michael. Michael constantly seeks approval. At work, in relationships, from friends, from strangers. One negative comment ruins his entire week. One criticism feels devastating. Why? Because somewhere inside him lives a child who learned that love was conditional, that being good earned affection, that making mistakes threatened connection. Again, the adult believes he is responding to the present. But often he is responding through a piece of the mirror, a fragment that still carries yesterday's emotional reality. This is why so many people feel confused by themselves. One moment they feel strong, the next moment they feel fragile. One moment they feel brave, the next moment they feel terrified. One moment they feel worthy, the next moment they feel worthless. They assume inconsistency means something is wrong. But perhaps it simply means different parts of the self are taking turns speaking. And here is where modern life becomes even more complicated. Because modern society often encourages fragmentation. At work, you become one person. On social media, another. With family, another. With friends, another. With strangers, another. Eventually, people begin asking a question that has become increasingly common. I don't know who I really am. But maybe the problem isn't that they lost themselves. Maybe the problem is that too many pieces stop talking to each other. Think about how often people describe themselves. I have a part of me that wants this. Part of me knows better. Part of me is scared. Part of me wants to leave. We already speak as though there are multiple selves within us, because there are. and relationships become the stage where those selves reveal themselves most clearly. This is why love feels so powerful and so painful. When two people enter a relationship, it is not merely two adults meeting. It is two collections of unfinished emotional stories meeting, two broken mirrors meeting. One partner's fear of abandonment encounters another partner's fear of intimacy. One person's need for reassurance encounters another person's need for independence. One person's wounded child meets another person's wounded child. And suddenly, ordinary events feel emotionally enormous. A delayed text message becomes evidence of rejection. A forgotten anniversary becomes evidence of not mattering. A disagreement becomes evidence of abandonment. Because the present moment activates old pieces of the mirror. Most arguments are not really about what they appear to be about. The surface issue is rarely the real issue. A husband explodes because dinner is late. It is not about dinner. A wife cries because a text message wasn't returned. It is not about the text. Something deeper has been touched. Something older. Something that existed long before the current moment. And unless we understand the mirror, we continue fighting shadows. We continue blaming others for wounds that began elsewhere. Now, here is the hopeful part. Healing may not be what most people think. Many people imagine healing means becoming someone new, a new mindset, a new personality, a better version of themselves. But perhaps healing is not about becoming someone else. Perhaps healing is about becoming whole, not adding pieces, reconnecting pieces. The goal is not perfection. The goal is integration. The goal is creating a stronger relationship between all the different parts inside you. Imagine for a moment that the frightened child inside you could speak. What would that child say? What fears would they reveal? What needs were never met? What pain was never understood? Now imagine the wiser, calmer part of you listening, not judging, not criticizing, simply listening. Perhaps that is healing. Perhaps healing is learning to become the parent that your inner child still needs. When anxiety appears, you respond with curiosity rather than shame. When fear appears, you respond with compassion rather than criticism. When sadness appears, you respond with understanding rather than avoidance. You become the glue. You become the bridge. You become the relationship that reconnects the fragments. This is why some people seem remarkably resilient. It is not because they have fewer wounds. It is not because life has been easier. Often it is because their inner world remains connected. When stress arrives, the different parts of them remain in conversation. When pain arrives, they do not abandon themselves. When fear arrives, they do not attack themselves. The mirror bends, but it does not shatter. And perhaps this brings us to one of the deepest realizations of all. Maybe unconditional love was never about creating dependence. Maybe its true purpose was helping us internalize a voice that says, you are safe, you are worthy, you are enough, you can survive this. Eventually, parents leave, relationships end, children grow up, friends move away, life changes. But the internal voice remains, or it doesn't. And that may explain why two people can experience the exact same hardship and respond so differently. One collapses, one adapts, one shatters, one grows, not because one is stronger, but because one mirror is held together by stronger glue. So perhaps the next time you feel conflicted, the next time you feel anxious, The next time you wonder why part of you wants one thing while another part wants something completely different. Pause and remember the mirror. Remember that the contradictions inside you may not be evidence of weakness. They may simply be evidence of humanity. Different parts trying to be heard. Different pieces trying to reconnect. Different selves trying to come home. Maybe you were never broken. Maybe you were fragmented. Maybe the anxiety is not proof that something is wrong with you. Maybe the loneliness is not proof that you are unlovable. Maybe the inner conflict is not proof that you are failing. Maybe it is simply the sound of unfinished conversations between parts of yourself. And perhaps healing is not about fixing yourself. Perhaps healing is about finally allowing those parts to meet, to listen, to understand, to forgive, to reconnect, piece by piece, moment by moment, until the mirror begins reflecting something it could never reflect before. Not perfection, wholeness, because the strongest people are not those who have no cracks. The strongest people are those whose cracks have been held together by love, and perhaps the most important love they eventually discover is the love they learn to give themselves.